Hey folks, today we're going to talk about the zone of excellence. If you feel unfulfilled in your life, you feel unappreciated at work, and you feel you're not fulfilling your potential, it may be because you're stuck in your zone of excellence. You haven't yet discovered or developed what's called your zone of genius. And in this video, we're going to help you uncover whether you're languishing in this zone and how you can start to move out of it. If you realize that you are indeed in this zone, then we're going to talk about what comes after the zone of excellence and where you can go to lead a more fulfilling life, both professionally and otherwise. This is Deep Psychology. I'm Ross. We blend spirituality, psychology and self-help to shine a light on your inner workings. Listen if you want to get real, powerful insights and avoid all the fluffy nonsense that abounds in self-help circles. You'll know more about how your psychology works than 99% of people on the planet. Find me on all the major podcasting platforms or head to deep-psychology.com, visited by thousands every month, for tons of free resources. And I'm now on Patreon. I'd really appreciate you supporting the show, and in return you can access exclusive perks. Alright, time for the show. So the zone of excellence, what is it? The thing is, you've probably experienced this in your life, if not many times, at least once. Basically what the zone of excellence is an area in your life of low to medium passion and high competency. For a lot of people, this is their professional, their career, their professional lives. Think of a set of tasks or a career that you had in which you did better than most people. The average person, you had way more knowledge than they did, but it's not something you particularly enjoyed. It felt like a bit of a grind. You wouldn't have chosen to do it. You did it for the external rewards, or it was a means to an end. It wasn't actually an end in and of itself. If this mostly describes your work either now or at some point in your life, we say that you're living in, or you were living in, your zone of excellence. Now, I look around and I see that if you're a professional, this is probably where you are. And it's tricky because usually because you've got higher competence than the average person, you can command a decent pay for it. Your bosses and the clients that you work for, they notice your competence in this area and they reward you for it. You feel comfortable because you found a certain niche, and your friends and your family and your co-workers like you to be here because you're successful and you're dependable, and they think you're having a measure of success. They see the external signs of success, and so they think, all right, this is what you should be doing, and there's nowhere else to go. They must be fulfilled and they've actualized their potential. The problem with the zone of excellence, and listen, if you're in the zone of excellence, you can probably intuit what the problem is. If you don't feel fulfilled, you feel like there's unrealized potential there, the problem's probably quite obvious to you. Here's what Gay Hendricks says, and he was the guy that came up with the term zone of excellence and also the zone of genius. He said that, quote, "The problem is that a deep, sacred part of you will wither and die if you stay inside your zone of excellence," end quote. A deep, sacred part of you will wither and die. Isn't that so true? Is that true for you right now in your life? You feel comfortable, but you feel empty too. It's like comfortably numb, you might say. It's comfortable, but you're actually not really inspired. You're not really going anywhere, and it doesn't connect with you. It's not related to your greatest passions in life. This is the problem with the zone of excellence. The thing is with this zone is that it slowly sucks your soul out of you. Professionals at this level aren't passionate about their work. They tend to be big fishes in a small pond, and they know there's something else out there for them. There's a new career direction for them, but the comfort of the zone of excellence locks them in, and this passion of them, it withers and dies. This verve and excitement, it dies, it slowly dies, and with this, your soul dies, your passion, your love for life slowly dies. A theme in Gay Hendricks' book is that he talks about many people remaining in the zone of excellence because of traumas or limiting beliefs that we have that come from trauma. Like, often we feel guilty for trying to push beyond our zone of excellence. We feel guilty for trying to live our life calling, or we feel fear, or we fear something like being unworthy of it, or being disliked, or not being accepted. And this just bogs us down even more in the zone of excellence. And I've actually had my own personal story with the zone of excellence. I've been in it several times, and I feel lucky to have seen the problem with the zone of excellence before I got really deep into it, and before I sort of built an entire life based on like a zone of excellence type career. Basically, for as long as I can remember, I've always been fascinated by maths and science, and at school I did really well, not just in maths and science, but particularly I was top in my school for my year group, and I was in the top 10 students in my country in my year group as well. And teachers and my family sort of encouraged me to cash in on the fact I got good grades, the fact I had academic potential, by studying to become a professional in a lucrative field related to my interests. So I did some research, and I discovered that there was a profession called an actuary, being an actuary, that allowed you to earn a lot of money, and it was very mathematical. And I had some very naive ideas about this profession. I kind of thought that I'd be sort of like a mathematical, creative leader that solved equations and came up with new solutions and mathematical ideas and so on. So basically I went and I studied a career that is very geared towards you becoming an actuary. And that's when the whole thing started to collapse, because after my second and third year at university, I did internships at a company in my city, and that's when reality really hit home. I discovered that I wouldn't be, solving equations and expressing my mathematical ingenuity. I'd be doing the 9 to 5 grind that everyone else does. I'd be looking at spreadsheets, I'd be going to boring meetings, and I'd be dealing with sort of like the bureaucratic corporate structures. And this was when, reality really hit me hard. And at 19, 20, 21 years old, I started seriously asking myself, is this what I want to be doing with my life? Am I going to spend the next 40 years doing this? And I knew the financial rewards. I knew or I had an idea of what was possible financially in that profession. But I had the wisdom, despite actually not really knowing what I was going to do with my life instead, I had the wisdom to say, nope, I don't want to do this. I'm not getting involved here. I'm not taking on a job full time and then, earning the money and probably getting a mortgage and probably this and that and the next thing, because I knew that would tie me down and it would make it impossible for me to be passionate. So I decided to forget that, set that aside, and it basically led to an identity crisis for a few years. Pretty intense for 1 or 2 years, and then it waned, but I was still sort of wandering around in the dark. I was still lost. I still didn't really feel like I had any passion in my life. I feel like I've recently resolved that, and it was so worth going through all that pain, but it took a bit of a leap of faith to say no. I've actually been through the zone of excellence twice since I left university. First as a self-employed maths tutor, which was I could have built a fully fledged business from that and been quite comfortable. And also as a freelance translator and content writer, which again I could have done the same. But all along, as I was doing these other things, I knew something was missing. There was always that feeling of there's something more. I need to find what that is. I could feel it in my bones every single day as I was working, as I was traveling to work and so on. And I had this feeling like I could barely stand it, like I couldn't stand to do this work for 40 years or however long. It did not seem like this was my ultimate place in life. Luckily, about 6 to 12 months after graduating, I found a new passion, which was psychology and spirituality and meditation and personal development and so on. And though it right away didn't lead to deep psychology, after about 4 years it did, because I finally made the decision to do something with this passion, and I realised that starting my own website was the way to go. So at that point, that's when in the last few years, that's when I've really feel like I've moved into my zone of genius, and it hasn't been an overnight thing. It's taken time for this to become an actual full-time career, but now that I'm there, I can tell you it's so worth it. So now that you know what the zone of genius is, I want you to identify whether you're in one right now, and there's a few really easy ways to know. First of all, do you feel competent in your career? Do other people recognize your skills? Do you feel low to medium passion for it? So you wouldn't do it if you didn't get paid. You don't necessarily enjoy it. You might actually dread it. You might have this feeling in your bones that there's something more. But it's a career. It's a viable career for you, and you could stay in that career for the rest of your life. Do you feel unfulfilled despite materialistic success? So, you might have a good salary and a big house and the car and all the other paraphernalia, but do you really feel fulfilled, or do you feel like there's something missing from your life? Do you feel like you have more to give? Is there something that you really want to undertake, but you find a lot of excuses not to? You don't feel capable, it scares you, you don't know how you're going to make money from it and so on, and so you just don't do it. If you answer 2 or 3 of these questions with a yes, then you're most likely in your zone of genius. And at this point, you have a choice. You can either, which is what most people do, you can either continue like this for the rest of your life in your zone of excellence, because that's what you're in. You're in the zone of excellence, but it's not the only zone. You can remain comfortable there, knowing that you'll probably be materialistically successful, but you're going to have this lack of fulfillment inside of you for the rest of your life. Or you can do what few do, and luckily what I had the foresight to do when I was just barely in my early 20s, and that's to start working towards the high competence, high passion zone of genius. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next episode. Alright, that's everything I want to say about the zone of excellence. If you dig what I do, please subscribe, consider supporting me on Patreon, that would be fantastic. And stick around for more, because I've got lots more content coming in the next few months. Also, you might want to check out my accompanying article on the Zone of Excellence. I'm going to link to that in the description, so check that out for a bit more information, and I will see you soon.